Lesson today is from Matthew chapter 25. Then the kingdom of heaven shall be compared to 10 maidens who took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, and 5 were wise. For when the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them, but the wise took flasks of oil with their lamps. As the bridegroom was delayed, they all slumbered and slept. But at midnight there was a cry, "Behold, the bridegroom, come out to meet him." Then all those maidens rose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out." But the wise replied, "Perhaps there will not be enough for us and for you. Go rather to the dealers and buy for yourselves." And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the marriage feast, and the door was shut. Afterward, the other maidens came also, saying, "Lord, Lord, open to us." But he replied, "Truly I say to you, I do not know you. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour." The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Would you join me in a moment of prayer today? Most gracious and holy God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. It is good to be back with you today. For those of you who may not know, Mark and I celebrated our 35th anniversary with a cruise, and so we just got back from a very different time zone, and it's interesting to explore that area of time. And I know that we have jokingly said things around here like we refer to Mayo time, where things just occur on Mayo time. And when we were in Barcelona, we started out in Barcelona, Spain, and when we were in Barcelona, it felt like Mayo time. It felt, rather relaxed. That may just be that we were the ones who were relaxed, because I didn't have a schedule or a rigid agenda. But when we got to Venice, we finished in Venice, Italy, the whole understanding of time changed dramatically. Because if you are familiar with Venice, it is a waterborne society. We never saw a car while we were in Venice. Now, I'm sure they're there, but we never saw them. It was all boats. If you call a taxi, you're calling a water taxi. And when Mark and I were ready to leave, we had another first in our lives. We had never taken a boat to the airport, and that was our experience in Venice. But I will tell you that if you are trying to catch a shuttle taxi, a water taxi, and that shuttle is scheduled to be there at 6:35, do not show up at 6:36, because it will be gone. They are rigid with their schedules because the water traffic is amazing. I mean, we live in Annapolis, we're familiar with water traffic, but this was beyond my understanding. It was incredible. And so this rigidity of time was very much a factor in this society. And so we had this element of time in this parable that was read for us concerning these 10 maidens. And it's talking all about this bridegroom and how the bridegroom is somehow delayed, and everyone is waiting then for the bridegroom. Now, we are familiar with weddings in this society. Just say yes.
Yes.
You know that we don't normally focus, I'm sorry gentlemen, but we don't normally focus on the bridegroom. Because in our society, the wedding is all about the bride. Yes, it is. Don't you ever forget that, right? It's all about the bride. Mark and I had the pleasure, I'll say that, of attending a wedding about 10 years ago, I think it was. And we were running what I thought was late. So we were arriving just as the wedding was supposed to start. And so we're running so that we don't, get in after the bride makes her entrance, only to be greeted at the door and told that the wedding was delayed. So we kind of breathed a sigh of relief. The chapel was on one side. There was another room where the restrooms were, so I went over there, only to see the bride and all of her attendants surrounding a woman at a sewing machine. The bridesmaids' dresses were being handmade still at the time the wedding was supposed to start. So an hour and a half later, they finally start the wedding, but the wedding party had been reduced to the number of dresses this woman could finish, okay? It was all about the bride, okay, and her attendance, all right? And so we've got this parable that has things, it seems a little backwards for us. Everyone's waiting for the bridegroom. And so if we kind of look at the context of weddings in Jesus' time, it might help us a little bit. The tradition, as I understand it, was that the bridegroom, the groom, and the bride and her family would come to some kind of an arrangement. Once that arrangement was set, the bridegroom would go away and prepare a place for his bride. So he would either fix up the family home or build a home or something. He would go away for a time to prepare a place for his bride. Then he would return, and as he's returning, the entire village or community was awakened to the fact that he was on his way back, because a wedding in Jesus' time would last a week. It was a week-long event of celebration. So as the time when the bridegroom should be returning, it would get close, the maidens, the bridesmaids, so to speak, would keep watch. They're watching for the bridegroom to come back so that they could raise the alarm and the entire community could get ready, because, hey, there's going to be this big wedding that's going to last a whole week. So when we put it in that context, we see that the bridegroom is delayed and he's not arriving when he's supposed to. And we have these maidens who are watching for the bridegroom. And 5 are considered wise, and 5 are considered foolish. The wise ones carried extra oil for their lamp, because apparently what you needed in order to participate in this wedding celebration was a lamp, a wick, oil, and that lamp needed to be lit. Okay, so you needed all those elements. And yet there was one group that didn't bring enough oil to sustain them should the bridegroom be delayed. They didn't prepare in advance. So we have to kind of look at this story and wonder. There is a key element in this story, because one group had it and the other group didn't, and that's the oil. And so we kind of have to wonder, what is the oil in this story? Jesus uses parables all the time in order to take heavenly principles and describe them using tangible things that folks can understand. So he uses things like sheep and shepherd and crops and all those kinds of things, vineyards, because that's exactly what his society was seeing. And so they were familiar with this whole idea of a wedding. So we have to wonder what that oil is. Martin Luther, I guess the father of the Protestant Reformation, we just celebrated the Protestant Reformation, the 500th anniversary of that. He suggests that that oil is our faith. And so I have to wonder then about that term where it's calling the one group of maidens foolish. Because I've seen it interpreted as silly, maybe careless, some other analogies for that word foolish. It may just be one of those terms that really can't be interpreted into English in any easy way. And so I wonder, if we consider that that oil is our faith, how easy is it for us to lose our faith? How easy is it for us to run out of our faith while we're still on this earth trying to do what God has called us to do? I would propose it's a little easier than we might want to admit sometimes, easier than maybe we want to face. I can tell you from my own personal experience, there's been several times in my life where I lost my faith. I don't know about you all. I have a feeling you may have felt something like that. Something hits you in the family, you lose a precious loved one, something out of the blue strikes you. You lose a job, you lose a marriage, something like that. I can tell you when I began to lose my sight at the beginning of this summer, I could feel my faith wavering. I could feel it wavering because it can happen. And so I wonder then, when we talk about faith and that oil, how is it that we can replenish that oil? How is it that we can keep that store of oil so that we can continue to do the work that God has called us to do? I love that song that the choir sang. You probably noticed I love that song that the choir sang, because it talks about keep your lamps trimmed and burning, for the time is drawing nigh. And so how do we do that? You know, and the second part of that song says, don't get weary because our work isn't done. We're still doing the work. So how do we replenish our faith? How do we make sure that we have enough oil that's going to last us through the hard times of our lives? Well, I think part of it is here today, isn't it? Just say amen anytime. I like call and response. You know? I told my congregation all summer, I can hear you better than I can see you. You know, so it's just a call and response. So I think coming together as a community of faith helps us to increase our faith. Amen? Amen. I think diving into times of prayer and study of scriptures, perhaps those words start to jump off the page, even if you've read a story 100 times. Maybe time 101 is when that message jumps out at you, and you can renew your faith. I think it's just our time together that we can continue to worship God. Believe me, I know this is a dark world that we live in. I realize that at times we can feel our faith wavering when we are spending another Sunday, yet again, lighting another special candle because of another mass shooting that happened right in our backyard. And because that one has happened, we've now already forgotten about Manhattan and Orlando and all the others that have happened in our recent history. And yet, this is a message of hope today. We welcomed a very precious young one into the family of Christ today. We are celebrating a baptism today because we can cling to this message of hope no matter what is going on in our lives. Amen. All right, there you go. I hope you can feel that today. I hope that your message today is a message of hope and of love and of God's caring for each and every one of us as we continue to experience these joys, these major joys in our lives, and these sometimes major disappointments in our lives as well. And so I wanted to leave you with this video about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago. I'm a creature of habit, like that method. We looked at a sermon series known as Music and the Psalms. And so we looked at different genres of music and compared them to different types of songs, walking through the book of Psalms. One of those weeks we looked at spirituals, that genre of music known as spirituals. And when you consider how that genre came to be, and the heartache and the trials that the folks who developed this genre of music came to be, you can imagine maybe a little bit about this need for this message of hope. And that is what is just throughout all spiritual music. You hear this wonderful message of hope. And so I had shared with you this video called Hold On. And I love these guys. I want to hire these guys. But let me just leave you with this video today. Before we left, I had you all leaving here singing Don't Worry, Be Happy. So I'm hoping today you leave here singing Hold On, hold on. Keep your hand on the plow and hold on, because consider that lamp that the maidens had. Not only did it have to have a lamp, a wick, and oil, but it had to be burning. It had to be burning. And so what is the burning? Potentially our good works. What we do in response to our faith. We're grateful to God for all that God has done for us, and so we respond in kind. And so I just hope that we leave here with a message of hope, that we can see that God will see us through. We can feel the presence of Jesus Christ walking with us each and every day. Hold on and keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Amen.
Amen.